Welcome to the Fishbowl Radio, everybody. My name is Chief here, and joining me today is Jalen. We're going to be doing a little bit of recap on the Ragin Cajun baseball season this past season for their 2024 season, and we're also going to talk about how G5 schools can navigate this new landscape of NIL and the transfer portal and that all that good stuff there. So, without further ado, let me introduce everybody. My co-host here, Jalen. How you doing today, Jalen?
Hey, I'm doing well, Chief. Another week to be a Raging Cajun. As I always say, Chief, it's always a good week.
It is always a good week to be a Raging Cajun. No matter how bad it is, you just got to keep doing what you got to do there. But anyway, let's get down
Absolutely.
to, let's get down to business here real quick here. So, we ran a poll on Twitter, and we wanted y'all input on what is y'all thought process and what y'all thought about all these teams here. So we went through football, basketball, women's basketball. Um, we're gonna probably do softball next week just to kind of see where expectations are at for these programs here. So you kind of want to get an idea of what your foundation or what your this is the standard. Are we meeting the standard for these school or for this particular for the school for the program? This is what we got going on here. So let me pull up Twitter here real quick here. So Twitter, y'all voted over what right now I still got an hour left on the poll, but this is live, so y'all are probably seeing what we got going on here. So um right now B is the overwhelming winner right now. 51.4% of y'all that vote on this poll gave that a B. So if we look at on Instagram, let me pull up my phone here and see where that one's at here. We got a dead tie between 50 and 50% here. A is second on Twitter at 29.7. But across both platforms, you can see right here, got it pulled up right here. If you can look across both platforms, overwhelmingly, I'm not a math whiz, but 81% is either voting high A or B on Twitter, and 100% so far on Instagram that has voted um, is has said that Rage Cage Baseball, Matt Diggs, y'all are doing a great job so far at keeping the standard going, which I would expect that you're kind of competing for your regular season conference champion. So you did win a conference championship of some kind there. You made it to an NCAA regional. I would agree with a grade of B. You made it to the postseason, 64 teams. Try to see if you can make it to the next level. Now, what would constitute an A in my opinion here? I think I would say I'll be more along the lines of a B grade. I'm thinking here. So um, that would be something that would be you know a B. So what would raise the bar for the Rage Cage baseball program to get to an A, Jalen? You think, in your opinion?
I think for them to get to an A, I think for me, based off this past season, I think that if they would have at least made it to the Sun Belt tournament title game, I would say, instead of getting bounced out after two games, I think that reached. But also, they made it further. They made it to a fourth game in the college station regional this year, whereas last year when they made it to the Coral Gables, they got bounced in the third game against Miami. So I think actually winning a regional on the season would give the Cajuns for me an A. I just think that this year was a great year. Even like I said, they got bounced in the Sun Belt tournament, but at the same time, they did end up getting a win against a Texas team who was one of the top teams in the country. They did go on to lose to Texas A&M, who made it all the way to the championship. But I think winning that regional, especially beating an A&M team, that would have gave the Cajuns an A in my opinion. But it's still a great season. I still give them a B. It still was a great year.
Interesting here. Yeah, this is going very well here. For the Cajuns here so far. So we're kind of doing something new here. This is the summertime. It's time for you to experiment a little bit here. So um, we're gonna try to do this a little bit more often here. I do like the live streaming experience here a little bit here, but uh, so what you think about how does Degs, you know, what is something the Cajun could do to make deeper? You think for the baseball team? Is there better pitching, better hitters. It's gonna be really hard to beat the staff they had this year, rosters and things of that nature. What do you think they can do? Not goo. Things that they could do to reach that next level of standard, like raise the bar, if you will.
I think as far as raising the bar, and let me tell you this, I think this year was one of their better hitting teams that they recently had. For the past couple of years, honestly. I mean, you seen Debo, Trey LaFleur knocking the ball. I mean, I think they had a great hitters this year. I think going forward, I think maybe with pitching, I would have to say would get better for this team. 'Cause I know down the stretch, pitching was they were struggling a little bit, but they were still winning games because of their hitting. But I think if they keep the same, get people going with hitting to hit the hitting streak, I think as far as getting the pitchers, get them going. I know they get more experience, get that going, and you have that little two-way punch where teams might not be able to touch you. You saw how they basically kind of dominated the Sun Belt throughout the course of the year because they were prepared. Pitching was great at the end. It's just I think throughout the course of the year, if you look at from the beginning to all the way to the end, even going all the way into that last game in the regional, I think pitching is the number one thing the Cajuns have to look for and improve on going into the offseason.
I can see with that the Cajuns had a really like if you look on the baseball side of things, they had a really like easy go with the Sun Belt Conference in the first half of that, which helped them a lot toward the end. As we saw, they ended up winning the regular season championship. The schedule wasn't really that tough for the first half of the Sun Belt Conference. When you got toward the second half part of it, you did, there was a more adversity for this team to overcome there. So when you look at that, and it helped them out toward the end. I mean, they did really well here. The only problem is with this year that I would say was a critique of Dags and them as them not doing well at all in the Sun Belt Conference tournament. I mean, you go two games and you're done. Not really the best way to start things. Um, it was hard. It was a heartbreaking like finish for them. So I would say that was kind of a rough thing for them, and it's rough. It's tough to do that kind of thing. But look, that is what it is. But you'll just see what is going on there. Um, so I agree with a B. I think a B is a very good grade for the Cajun baseball team so far. That's just something that they're gonna have to look at and see um, what is going on there. So anyway, let's talk about NIL. I think NIL is a very hot button topic here, for sure. What you think, Jalen? Like, what is some ways these G5 conferences can even compete with this year? Because we did an episode back in December. You can go look on our YouTube or other platforms that we're on that we talked about the theory of this being a setup for a Power Two, which would be SEC Big Ten, obviously. Um, what you think, Jalen? How would if you were an AD today? How do you combat this NIL being such a smaller school than these other big schools?
That's actually a very tough question there, Chief, because I would say NIL is the biggest thing in all of college sports. Like it's the biggest thing going now. Years ago, they kind of tried to bring it along, but now it's the hottest thing. The kids these days, they're not going to a school just because they want to play and win championships. No, they want to go for NIL because they have money. Now, if I was not, the question was if I was an AD, I would try to sell, especially these kids that's from a certain area. Like say if I, or let's say I'm a put myself as Brian Maggart for a second, Dr. Brian Maggart for a second. Like I'm just like, okay, I need to get these Louisiana kids first. Like try to get them be like, hey, like this is your home. You could play for the home team, and you can still get NIL in certain ways, and still be at home, and still play on a great team, and still have career success. Therefore, because you see how many players from Cajuns in all sports have gone on to make it to the pros. So I think you have to sell them on that first because it's against, like you said, the SEC or a Big Ten school that can give these players millions of top of millions when it comes to NIL. These smaller schools, like you said, the group of five schools are not able to give as much, I mean, not able to produce as much revenue, which it does suck. It really does. But at the same time, you have to figure out, I would say, loopholes to try to recruit and get these kids to come play for your school, which is tough to do. It's not easy. I can tell you that right now. It's not easy. But at the same time, there's there you're going to get these recruits. It's not like all these 5-star, 4-star players can't go to the SEC and Big Ten schools. Like it just doesn't work like that.
Okay, so I thought about this for a while, and I've had to like you got to sit down and think about this because there's a lot of like stuff being thrown at these 18 to 22-year old people's lives. Like this money could technically change their life. Even like there's some
Yep.
recruits that are growing up in poor areas around the state and abroad, and you're throwing a lot of money that way. It's really hard for them to say no. I'm looking at this from the athlete's perspective. Hey, look, you look someone in the face and you say, yeah, you're a traitor to the school. Why would you leave? But if someone waves a 500K in your face, that's a lot of money to turn down. Like just and you're not really making anything out of the school. I guarantee you, probably 95% of everybody that follows this podcast would probably pick up and leave. That's a life changing amount of money. That if you manage it correctly, you are going to be set pretty well. Like you will never, unless you just blow it. If you know how to manage that much money and you're good at doing what you're doing, should never go broke. That's just a fact. That's just the way it is. So to convince an 18, 19-year-old to stay at your school, it's a tough ordeal. So how do you actually even beat that kind of thing is the question. So I think Allison said something really interesting, the new softball coach for UL. I think that was very interesting what she said. She said that she said that she wanted people to wear the name across the chest, like be proud to wear the name across the chest. And I referenced that whenever we are doing our video there that it was good for her, like to make that comment because, and there was stories about Gary Glasgow asking for like $50,000 to like get more NIL people here, which is understandable. You got to try to raise money to keep these people around these days. That's just the way it is in college athletics. So to fix that problem for G5 schools, it would have to be partnering with local businesses, not just one or two. You need the community, like to do like a big potluck and basically keep these star athletes around here. So if they're like we got money around this area. Like Acadiana does have some people with some deep pockets that could very well, um, you know, shore up some money for sure. You got lawyers, a lot of lawyers in this area. Like I see Dudley DeBosier, who the official injury attorneys of the Raging Cajuns. They're a sponsor of Raging Cajuns, so if they're giving NIL money, they probably need to pop out a little bit more because for you to turn that into a top program, you need that. In addition to that, you got Don's, you got Billy's, you got all these kind of big places here where they have multiple locations. So from a business owner perspective, if you got 3 or 4 locations of the same store, by the time you get to that fourth location, you're already just making money. Like you got KOK in town there. They got I think 3 locations. I don't know. Did they ever close the place in the mall for KOK? I haven't been to the mall in a hot minute. Jalen? Yeah, I'm not sure. But anyway, so you got that problem going along there, and you got all that going on. So Jalen, like, what do you think? Like, how do you get these local businesses to come together to form a community to, build up this NIL trust fund that you can maybe have to go splurge to other players? What do you think, Jalen?
Well, like you said too, Chief. I think also, I'm glad you brought up like Billy's, and you need to bring up these local businesses, and that has multiple and like multiple. I think KOK is a good one. And KOK is still kind of new, honestly, to a lot of people. So I think bringing small businesses like that together, and it's also big corporations like attorneys. Everything that you mentioned, I agree with everything that you said, but you need to bring a lot more to the table when you're a small school or small schools, because big schools, of course, they're gonna have the money. They're gonna have these what's the word a lot of people like to use, boosters. Boosters is one of the main things a lot of these schools have. And if you get people together, because I know around here they have a lot of diehard Raging Cajun fans who want to see these great players come here, who want to see them play, who want to see them come here and win Sun Belt championships every year. So yeah, bring the championship atmosphere, but also you need to have the people behind it. Everybody needs to get together and sponsor this person or that person and get and show them that hey, you don't have to leave out of the state. You can be home, make NIL, change your life, and at the same time, you could live your dream one day if you want to make it to the NFL and play right here. So I think that if everybody gets together, it's endless opportunities, Chief. The way I see it, because the big schools have the money talks, but at the same time, just because you're a small school doesn't mean your money can't talk either.
Yeah, I think that's kind of one thing that we all need to like look at here. Like how, but how, like they're going to want a return on investment. That's one big thing. I think that's kind of like not really.
Hey, Chief, we
Hey
lost you
Jeff,
there for a second. Yeah,
it
I
says
got you.
yeah. Oops, connection lost. Reconnecting. So let's see.
Oh, that's all right. We're still rocking and we're still rolling.
Basically, what they're going to want to investment. Like I was saying here, so you got like this is going to be like okay, how much you can be to the like what into my business and you know put well. You know, that's one of the things that I'm looking here to see. That's these people it's gonna be like have if I was to a G to put that out and that like what be to or even if those guys the way that five exist, we what you say for like basketball like only a phone just would want if put in much to get a phone system to do kind of things. So it's just gonna be one of the things that um, so yeah, like it's gonna be there. Like you have to be like a farm system where you're gonna have these stuff and so a farm system very well you like use your team like a minor league, like keep with the NBA. Like go about then they
Yep.
NBA. I think that happened in college athletics. Might adopt that stuff where you like look offer you one or I look go showcase your ability and that LSU here. You come to Louisiana, we're gonna put your it's only like do it like a mercy and you that's it. That's it. Because a lot of kids guys that like you're a freshman, you don't want to sit the bench. Come over here to Sunday. We have your 5-star prospect and be sitting behind like that's
That's the truth, though.
you have like hell, but like look, it is harder. So if you ain't if you don't have this, that is that's under what they're doing. They offer them uh, which there's not everywhere. You know, So that's all I'm saying. Before we get
I just want to say that the talent, regardless of any sport, is always going to be there. You just need to go out there and get it. And if you have the revenue, you have the revenue. But if you don't, you need to come up with ways to make sure you get that revenue so you can get these great players. So that's what I'm gonna say.
all right, tune in. Radio. Have a good night, Fishbowl.